The college football playoffs got underway yesterday,
Marsh, who tight ropes down the sideline.
and they were both really good games.
First lofts it up, there's single coverage, and it's gone!
So the college football playoff committee got it right? Let's break it all down and see if we can solve this mystery once and for all. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Marv on Air, and I am so thankful you somehow managed to stumble onto this video. If you enjoy this video, liking and subscribing helps me out more than you know. Plus, it's like completely free. It's a win-win, you know what I'm saying? Now, let's break down whether or not this committee knows what they're talking about. This year was an absolute doomsday scenario for a sport in which a committee decides who goes to the playoffs. I've never seen a tighter top 4 race. A lot of fun to watch, but it was inevitable someone got left out. We had a clear 6 teams who all had a very reasonable application to make the playoffs. Michigan was your undefeated Big Ten champion. Washington, your undefeated Pac-12 champion. Florida State University, your undefeated ACC champion. Texas, your one-loss Big 12 champion. Alabama, your one-loss SEC champion. And Georgia, whose loss in the SEC championship was their only loss in the last 28 games. 5 conference champions, none with more than 1 loss, and your reigning 2-time champion who was on a 27-game win streak before the SEC championship. Now, I don't completely understand why Division I football is like the only sport to have a playoff decided by a group of old dudes. Doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. Credit Mike Leach for actually coming out and talking about it.
How is it possible that you could actually have a playoff format in college football? Well, gee, I don't know. We can go down to the local city park, and I'll bet you somebody that handles youth football could tell you how to do something like that.
Rest in peace, Mike Leach. And when a committee is deciding something like this, there will always be uncertainty in what dictates a playoff team. For example, I've heard it's the best 4 teams that get in, which for me would be Michigan, Washington, Texas, Georgia, but I've also heard it's the most deserving, which I think is pretty clearly Michigan, Washington, FSU, Texas. 3 undefeated conference champions, and Texas beat Alabama, the only other remaining champion. But when you look at what actually was decided, Michigan, Washington, Texas, Alabama, FSU, and Georgia being left out doesn't really make sense to me. You left out one of the most deserving and one of the best teams. Now, I completely understand that most deserving is much more objective than the best teams, but are you telling me that Georgia lost by 3 to Alabama at a neutral site in the SEC championship game after 27 straight wins, and they dropped from 1st to 6th? To me, doesn't make any sense, especially when you consider TCU losing the Big 12 championship game last year and getting in. So when you think about it, last year's Georgia team absolutely demolishing TCU led to this year's Georgia team not making the playoffs. That is a tough break. But no matter how hard we wish that the playoffs turned out like that, or how much we think that they should have been that way, it's not what we got. We ended up with Michigan and Bama in the Rose Bowl and Texas and Washington in the Sugar Bowl. And boy, they did not disappoint. Kicking it off first, Michigan beat Bama 27-20 in overtime. This was honestly like almost a perfect game. So fun to watch, very, very exciting, which is crazy because the game that followed it was arguably even better. A lot of mistakes early from the Wolverines. Bama's out ahead. Although Alabama was able to put up points and get ahead, they weren't really able to stop Michigan's line. 4 sacks in the first 18 minutes of the game and 5 in the first half. We saw J.J. McCarthy, who honestly, I wouldn't mind the Patriots picking in this year's draft, go up and one-handed snag a trick play throw, which would have been a fumble because it was a backwards pass, and then while getting rocked, just sling an absolute dart. I mean, we were seeing high-level play from both quarterbacks, to be honest. Milroe was essentially Houdini, absolute escape artist out there. And as time wore thin, the special teams proved to be a bit of an issue for the Wolverines. 2 muffed punts, one which they lost early in the game, but still lost, and what proved to be a pretty big deal was the botched snap on a PAT, and instead of a touchdown to win it, it's a touchdown to force overtime. They get it, they go out, they get it done in overtime. Michigan's going on to the national championship. FSU players were not happy that Alabama got in, but also they lost by 60 to Georgia. So either play your players and don't lose by 60 or don't complain. Following the Michigan game, however, was Washington, Texas. And I'm going to be honest, I did not see this game being this good on paper. Maybe that makes me a schmuck, but jeepers. It was unbelievable. Not only can Michael Penix drop it into a bucket from about 9,000 yards away, but he can also fire a bullet pass into a tiny little window. Texas was firing on all cylinders as well. Run game looked good. Quinn Ewers was getting it out and was a threat on the ground as well. This game was 21-21 at half, so if you love offense, Go watch the highlights to that. But then in the second half, Washington started to pull away a little bit. Texas attempted a comeback, which their last drive was actually insane, but they did come up one play short. And so now with both semifinal games coming down to the last play, which is what we ask for as sports fans. This begs the question, did the committee get it right somehow? Although they didn't follow one set of criteria either way, what resulted was an unbelievable slate of games. It's entirely possible that these two games just happened to match up really well, and our national championship isn't up to the same caliber. It's entirely possible, I think, that Michigan runs the table with Washington. Their defense was so dominant against Alabama, but then again, did Alabama really deserve to be in? It felt like they were losing the whole game but somehow hanging around. What would have happened if Georgia slipped in at 4? Or if we go most deserving and Michigan has to play Texas? We will never know the exact answer to this question, but my takeaway is ultimately that it was a win. Even if Michigan or Washington wins the national championship by 85 points, we got two absolutely unbelievable semifinal games. I'd rather have two really good semifinal games than two semifinals and a decent or even a really good championship. Essentially, more good games equals good. Let me know what you think down below. I know a lot of people were upset about FSU not getting in. I myself was more upset about Georgia. What do you think? Did the committee get it right? Who's going to win the national championship? And does the 12-team playoff fix this for next year? Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. Like I said, helps me out immensely. I will see you guys in the next one.